for Dr. J.
What you doing?
Okay, so we're rolling. I want to get this on tape because this is funny. So we have a common student.
Yes, we do.
We actually have a few common students this semester, but one in particular who's one of my repeat offenders.
Not one of mine.
Not one of yours. And of course, the story is, I couldn't. One day in class, I could not remember that child's name, and so what happened was I invented a name.
A double name.
Well, the double name comes after this. I invented a name and said, I'm just going to call you Tim. So then, next class, I was like, Daniel. But then after that, it was Tim Daniel.
Oh, he talked to me about it. He told me, he's like, yeah, every day I would just give him a different name. He's great.
So this is what he did today. He went in, created an entire different account, and then used that to get in, and his regular to get in. So I had Daniel, and I had Tim Daniel.
I didn't know they could do that.
I didn't either.
You got to ask him how he pulled that off.
Well, we talked about it a little bit.
You should set it up one semester, because you know COVID's going to be around for the next 100 years.
Right.
We're going to be teaching online forever, but one semester you create two of you.
Yeah.
And just scare the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
I'm watching you.
I'm watching.
And so am I.
So, yeah.
The eyes of God. That's what those eyes are in Gatsby.
Yes.
Yeah.
The eyes of God.
It really isn't. No.
All right. So, before we get started, I got to start doing this at the beginning of every podcast.
Yeah, you've been forgetting.
I have. I have forgotten every time.
Not anymore.
Right. If you like what you see, click the like button. The more likes we get, the higher we go up on the search. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications. We do the Optic Poet every Wednesday and the beta files every other Friday. So check it out, all right? Yay. All right, I got that done. If you're listening on podcasts, just keep with us, tell your friends. God, spread the word about the Optic Poet. Okay, now, house cleaning is out of the way.
Put Tim Daniel aside.
Put Tim Daniel aside. He started blaming it on Luke. Because you've got Luke too, right?
I'm not sure.
I think you do. I know you've had him before.
Yes.
Because you had him after you had me for 112, and I fussed at him about it. Why didn't you take me for American Lit? I wanted somebody better. I'm like, oh! Is that it? So then today, he said in the chat, he said, does everybody else think that Mr. Barber looks like the guy who sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl? And I chimed in, I said, everybody, I want you to know, this is the day Luke failed American Lit. So anyway, he's already failed my class twice. Because I mentioned
serious?
something.
Oh, you gave his last name,
Pretend. Pretend failed.
All right.
Pretend failed. He hasn't actually, he's a decent student.
You gave his whole name though, right?
Yeah.
Whoops. To bleep that shit out.
Nah, it'll be all right.
This is the
I
second
don't
time
think the 8 people that watch us are going to go after this kid.
Well, they're also not going to subscribe, but that's okay.
We have 26.
I saw.
Yes.
You gotta get a
We're
life.
just 74 to go to get to 100. Once we get to 100, then we can change the YouTube channel name to the Beta Files /YouTube.
Oh, you have to get to 100 to do that?
You have to get to 100 to do that. Right now, our name is like that long. And it's like, numbers, symbols, the periodic table.
Algebra.
Algebra. Randomized binary code.
Theory of relativity.
That's it. All in that one name.
So today's podcast, boys and girls,
Yes, on today's podcast,
Women.
We're going to talk about women.
not real women.
Actually, what I'm going to, no, these are real to me. Especially the main one.
Oh,
What a woman.
she's beautiful.
She is amazing.
That body.
It was a cruel body.
That's, by the way, that's from Gatsby, not from what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Gatsby.
Oh, because we got to talk about her. No, so the actual title, and you'll see this when it goes up, and they already know the title because they've clicked on this now.
But,
So
but
weird,
it's
isn't
Tuesday,
it?
so I don't know the title.
Tuesday, yeah. It's going to be the one about woman.
The one about woman.
Yeah, the one about woman. Not women.
I
woman.
taught women this week.
Yeah, I taught them last week. The differences between Daisy Miller and Editha and Calixta. Oh, and Desiree. Oh, and
Desiree's baby's great.
okay, so is it Desiree or Desiree?
I'm guessing it's Desiree because it's Louisiana.
But here's the thing: the accent is on the first E, not the second.
That would
'cause
make that
double
would
E.
still be
Would that
Desiree. Yeah, but I don't think
Not
it.
the E?
I don't think it matters.
Because I always said Desiree.
I think her audience would have pronounced it both ways. Kind of like Poe, the argument over the cask of Amontillado. Is it Amontillado or Poe say Amontillado? We just don't know. We don't know.
Well,
that's-
the origin Italian is Amontillado, right?
Yeah, and Spanish. I think it's in both
Yeah.
languages.
Well, that would make sense.
But I'm pretty sure.
And of course, the French call it vino.
Yeah, but I think Amontillado. I think
That was
it's,
a joke.
But yeah, well, hi. But they would say vin,
Vin.
vin.
Get the vin.
All right,
It's Lebanese.
we should probably.
Angriest way to say I love you.
Yes.
All right, so yes, we're talking about women. Woman.
Starting with.
Woman. The woman. Macbeth. Lady Macbeth.
So we're starting with her.
Well, yeah, because I think. All right, so here's the theory.
We doing it chronologically, or
Shall we do it? I mean, how do we want to do this? Because there's the all right. So the three women we're going to talk about is Hester, Lady Macbeth, and Daisy Buchanan.
yes?
And each one, really, what it is you got these two women that bookend Hester,
Right.
and both of them are portrayed negatively.
right.
Hester is portrayed positively for a negative action,
Yes.
which puts into play that idea: did she do something wrong?
Well, with Shakespeare, it's weird because I think you start out liking her because I think Shakespeare, like with Milton and Satan,
Yeah.
I think Shakespeare wants you to like her
Right.
because she's a badass.
She is.
But then it turns
Right.
and she can't get the blood off her hands.
So I'm going to argue with you on that. So I guess we're starting with Lady Macbeth.
Well, it makes sense because a lot of female characters come out of her. Like you can't imagine a lot of writers writing women without having read
Lady
Shakespeare.
Macbeth.
Yeah.
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 And she's his most complex character. But
She
you were going to
is.
disagree with me. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you about how it starts off you liking her. I don't.
You
And then
brought
it turns.
books.
I did. I
I didn't bring shit.
this morning when I got up, I grabbed Macbeth. I was like, I want to make sure I find the exact places I want to talk about because it's been a long time since I read Macbeth.
Oh, it's been forever.
So this is the first time you actually meet her, and of course she reads the letter
Yes.
from Macbeth, and this is her response to the letter. And basically, in the letter, he says, "They meet me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfect test report." Fucking Shakespeare. They have more. No one speaks that way. You're confusing everybody.
Must try harder.
Must try harder. They have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me, Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with Hail, King that shalt be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightest not lose dews of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart and farewell. So this is Macbeth's letter telling her about how who is it? He and, it's not him and Duncan, it's him and, who's the one that's with him when he meets the witches?
Oh, I do not remember.
I can't remember either, because there's two of them. Banquo. Banquo. Yeah, Banquo's with him when he meets the witches. So he meets the witches, and he writes this letter to her, basically telling her that the witches told him that he's going to be king. And so this is her response. And one of the things is, my dearest partner of greatness. That's awesome. So right there, he establishes, like Shakespeare establishes, that he and her are like this.
That's right.
They are one and the same, right? And that's key to understanding her. Because you find out as the play goes on, she's pulling his strings the whole time. That's why I said, I wonder. And there's no way to find this out, or no way to really argue this, but I wonder if she puts the witches up to it.
Yeah, not enough evidence to say other way.
Yeah. But there's a lot of, I mean, that could be feasible.
Yeah, you could make that argument.
Because as the play goes on, you realize she is way more involved in this plan than she lets on, right? So she responds, Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised, Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it.
I like the pause. It's
Yes.
dramatic.
Well, I'm being Lady Macbeth. What thou was highly.
Which would have been a teenage boy.
That was, what was thou highly? That was thou holy.
Let's not do that.
What's not, well, okay, let me start over. This is so bad. This is going to be fucked up. Art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, thou wouldst holily. God, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Thou I'dst give, great Glamis, that which cries. Thus thou must do if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal. So basically, and it's just her, and that's it, on the stage. So she reads his letter, and he's like, oh, look, the three weird sisters said I'm going to be king. Oh, that's so great. I love you, baby. And she says, you ain't got the balls.
Yep.
You ain't got enough balls to do what you got to do to make it happen.
You're too nice.
And so, and I love this, hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round. Wait till you get here, you little bastard, and I'm going to set you straight. These opening lines of hers, this is my argument against you. These opening lines of her is, oh no, we're going to make sure you fucking do this shit, boy.
Yep.
Right? It's this idea that she's bad from the beginning. She is bad news. But you see how she's setting up the power structure immediately.
She is.
And that power structure already exists. His thing where he calls her what? Partner in greatness. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dews of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. So he's saying that, like, when I do this, you're going to be great. And what she's saying is, oh no, I already am.
Yep.
I'm going to make you do this.
She's going to make him great.
Yeah, that's it, right? And that's what makes her fucking amazing. Then, jump forward a little bit.
You marked it.
I did.
You did homework.
I did.
I just showed up.
This is what I did this morning. Because I was like, he wanted me to look at Lady Macbeth. He better have read that damn book.
Did you read it all?
What?
Did you read the whole play? Yeah.
No, I'm familiar enough with the play I could find what I wanted.
Good.
It took me a minute. I was doing it this morning after I just got up, and I think I had a cup of coffee while I was like trying to find this shit. You know, I'm like, oh, there it is. Mark it.
Is that a Dover Thrift Edition?
It is.
They're great.
They are.
The Folger Shakespeare is even better.
Yeah. Yeah, the Folger Shakespeare. Well, when I was at Appalachian, I started collecting these. Because I have, like, my dad had the Oxford. And so I've got his copy of the Oxford. And I started getting the Oxford World Classics, where they have all this shit in the back.
Yes.
But when I was at App, they had these in the, back then it was $1.
Yep.
They're up to $2 now.
Whoa, well.
I know, they've gone up. Fucking inflation. So at App,
Thanks, Obama.
I started collecting. Yeah, thanks, Obama. I started collecting them, and then over the years, I've just kept buying them, so I can have all the Dovers, because they're neat little bucks. I used to teach the Dover Hamlet.
Dover's
when I
good.
did 131.
Dover's really good.
Yep. Because I could get them. That was before we had that stupid rule about textbooks, so I could order the Dover Hamlet for them. It was $1.
Yeah.
So like the bookstore marked it up, and it was like $1.50. So anyway. So Macbeth comes home, and his lady comes in, and she says, "Honey, come hither. Come hither, prithee."
Is that exactly what she said?
No, just to get your ass over here.
What a poet.
I know. So he says, "How now, what news?" This is Lady Macbeth. "He has almost supped. Why have you left the chamber? Hath he asked for me? Know you not he has? We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon." So she comes in, and she says, "He's eating, or he's getting ready to eat. Why'd you leave?" Fuck.
Poor Macbeth can't do anything
I
right.
know, and Macbeth is like, "Did he ask for me?" And she's like, "Duh." "Know you not he has? Duh." It's Shakespearean for duh. And he says, "We will proceed no further in this business." Oh, that's the wrong thing to say, buddy. Don't you know that by now? Haven't you figured out this one? Your partner in greatness? Boy, you're kind of dumb. And she responds,
Her response is great.
"Oh, was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself?
Oh.
Hath it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage?" Okay. Basically, this is me going to be having a bunch, like the entire podcast is me having epileptic fits. So, no offense.
I can help you with that. I know how they work.
Yeah.
I've done a few.
Right?
I have epilepsy, by the way.
So what she's saying is, on this line, was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself?
What is your problem?
What is your deal? What did you forget? What have you done?
Or in this case, not done.
Yeah, what have you not done? Hath it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale, and what it did so freely? So in other words, is it sick with the fact that realize what you're getting ready to do,
Yep.
this hope that you had.
Yep.
But then I'm going to skip a couple of lines, and she says, wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, in other words, the crown, and live a coward in thy own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage.
Oh,
So she's challenging him.
she is.
She threw the gauntlet.
Be a man.
Yeah, be a man. Then he says, prithee peace, I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none. And so funny because he immediately picks up on what you just said. Be a man. I dare do all that may become a man.
Yep.
I will do it. I'll do it. What do you mean I will do it?
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it later.
I'll do it later, yeah.
I'll get around to it.
Who dares do more is none. Right? Yeah, right. Come on, you're all talk. And her response, oh, she's so good.
She's wonderful.
What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me?
Why did you even tell me
Why
about
did
this
you
if
even
you're not
tell
going
me?
to do it?
Exactly.
Yep.
Who came between us? Remember what he calls her.
Yep.
Partner in greatness. She's holding him to it. When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you will be so much more the man.
Thou art the man.
Yeah.
If you do it.
If you do it.
Otherwise,
You're not.
you're like the cat in the adage.
In the adage. Yes. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from its boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
Oh my God.
So basically what she says, I would have killed our child
Yep.
if you'd told me to.
Our infant child.
Our infant child. If you had told me and I had swore that I would do it.
Yep.
And then he says, if we should fail, and her response is, we fail.
See, I think all of this makes her likable,
Well, yeah.
whether you
When
want to
be.
or not.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm picking up what you're saying
Yeah,
now.
because you can't help but admire that kind of courage,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of pluck, because she has got.
Well, this is the saving grace, right? If he says, if we should fail,
And she
she
says,
says, we fail. And there's an exclamation point. We fail. You promised. Doesn't matter. If we fail, we fail.
You got to do it now.
You gotta do it. Partner in greatness, my ass, you little punk.
She's wonderful.
She is.
Finding another place?
Then we get to the end. It's the last time we see her. Remember this?
I do.
It's a sleepwalking scene.
Oh my God, it's so hard to read. Because you feel so bad for her.
You
don't
do.
want to. It's like Lolita all over again. Freaking
Well,
Satan.
okay, and we're going to talk about something very important. And and I can't help but to tie it to Quentin, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Of course you can.
But it's this. But here's the thing. You know, Faulkner read this.
Oh my God.
You know, he knew it backwards and forwards.
Well, we know he read it because he quotes it for
Yeah.
the novel The Sound and the Fury, which comes
Yeah.
directly from Macbeth.
Yeah. Which is where Quentin's suicide happens.
Yep. Or does it? Dun dun dun.
You see, her eyes are open. But their sense is shut. What is it she does now? Look, how she rubs her hands. It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. So she's sleepwalking and they're watching her from afar.
Just trying to wash the blood off her hands.
Yes. Yet here's a spot. Hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance the more strongly. Out, damned spot, out, I say. 1, 2. Why then it's time to do it. Hell is murky, fie, my lord, fie, a soldier and afeard. What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? And so yes, this is where we find out she's dreaming about trying to get the blood off her hands.
She can't.
Out, damned spot, out, I say. She can't get rid of it.
Yep.
Do you mark that? The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What will these hands ne'er be clean? Ne'er be clean, excuse me. No more o' that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. Starting to regret the murder. All of this is coming out. This is the guilt. Here's the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Oh, oh, oh. And I'm skipping now. I'm not doing the doctor and the gentleman. Wash your hands, put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out on one's grave. To bed, there's knocking at the gate. Come, 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 come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed. Of course, she's not talking about going to bed.
No.
She's talking about death.
Yes.
And of course, we find out shortly after all this, she's committed suicide.
Yes.
You said it was sad. Why is it sad before we get into the suicide?
I think it's sad because, again, you like her in spite of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of want them to succeed in their plan,
Right.
and to see her fall from this really, really strong woman
Mm-hmm.
into complete ruin.
Yeah.
She is now racked with guilt,
Yep.
and that is hard to read
Right. It is.
because you don't want her to feel guilty. You don't want her to die.
Mm-mm.
You know you should, but you don't.
But you don't want to.
You don't, because you love her.
Yeah.
The audience loves her. I would like to have been a fly on the wall when this was first performed,
Mm-hmm.
to see how the audience responded to her, because they used to boo and cheer.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, audiences in the theater in the 16th, 17th centuries were not quiet like we are now in the theater. They would yell at people, they would heckle the actors, they would cheer, they would boo. I would love to see how they respond to her chastising Macbeth.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen
Oh,
that.
they probably cheered her on.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Again, in spite of themselves.
Yeah.
You cannot help but like her. That's what I meant in the beginning.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
she likable in the sense of being a good person? No, she's horrible.
Yeah.
She is truly horrible. But you want her to succeed so badly,
Mm-hmm.
and you know it's like, it's not, she's right. You're a coward. Get your head out of your ass
Yeah.
and just kill this motherfucker.
Yeah. You planned on doing this,
So do it.
and then he heaps a little bit of praise on you, and all these people are celebrating you because he heaped praise on you. You still got to kill him.
Yep.
You made the promise. Oh, okay. So let's get to the suicide.
Which is also hard.
Yes, because you don't see it.
No, it's off stage.
It's off stage. So of course, the question then, but this is where we talk about Quentin.
His suicide's off stage.
His suicide is off stage. What Faulkner does, and the whole setup to that is, did he even exist to begin with? So if you start playing with that idea, and then you go back to Macbeth, the three weird sisters, this idea, this wonderful theory, I'm trying, I want so bad to be real, that she's behind the three weird sisters, right? Is she really real?
The only problem is the evidence has got to be there.
Mm-hmm. The question is, does she act as his? We know she acts as his conscience. She is the devil on his shoulder,
She is.
right? And I know there's been so much scholarship written about this damn play, so, you know, if you're a Shakespeare scholar and you want to start arguing with me, that's fine. Leave it in the comments. But This is my POV, okay?
It's a thought experiment.
It's a thought experiment. What if she doesn't exist?
I like the idea. I think she does, but I'm fascinated by the idea that she doesn't exist. I think we would have to do a lot of digging to prove it.
The only problem with the theory is the sleepwalking scene.
Yeah. Well, the problem is others see her and interact with her.
But, I could take you back to That Evening Sun.
You could. I think it would be hard to prove, but I think it's a fascinating thought experiment. The idea that she's not real.
Yeah.
And that she never was real.
Because whenever he kills a major female character, he does it in front of the audience.
Not here.
Except here, with her, she doesn't die in front of the audience. Othello, she dies in front of the audience. Hamlet, Gertrude.
She dies off stage.
Gertrude dies off stage. So does
No, not Gertrude. Not Gertrude.
not
Gertrude's his
Gertrude.
mother.
Yeah, she dies in front
Ophelia.
of the stage. Ophelia dies off stage.
She dies off
She
stage.
goes crazy
she drowns.
and dies off stage.
Yeah, she drowns herself, and it's reported because someone actually saw the body. How they saw the body, I have no idea.
Well, the
'cause it
same
was
thing
underwater.
happens in Macbeth. They report the death.
Yes.
Here's another interesting thought to play with. I mean, she is real, but it's staged. She gets out. If that happens, if that's the case, if she bolts, all that credibility she builds at the beginning goes to waste.
I think one way or another the credibility goes to waste
Yeah.
because she encourages him to do this thing and he does it, and now she's racked with guilt.
Yeah.
I think either way she fails. That she is incapable of sustaining her courage.
Right. Okay. That brings us to Daisy.
So we're going in that order. Okay, we're going to save the best to last.
Yes, we're going to say because she succeeds.
Yes.
In the end, she succeeds.
Yes.
Daisy doesn't. If we're to believe Nick.
This is a big ask.
This is a big ask. We're not going to go into my theory about Gatsby. He's getting everything from newspaper articles. Eyes of God, my ass.
Oh, I hate that so much.
I do too.
Like that damn A.
We'll get to the A.
We'll talk about the A later.
The red herring. Forget the A. In my class, what I do is I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about the A for like 5 seconds. It means adultery. We're done. I think it was 2 seconds.
Well, I mean, because it's just not that important compared to the other things that happen in that book. But we're skipping ahead.
No, and yeah, we are. We'll come back to that. We'll have a nice little discussion about the A. Because Pearl, never mind. We'll get to that.
Yeah, just save it. Daisy.
Daisy.
Great character.
But wait, it's a wonderful character. Without Daisy, that book fails.
I agree with that.
You have to have Daisy for that. Because, well, obviously, not just... she's the complete motivation behind every character in that book.
That's right.
Every character. Even down to Jordan.
Yep. Also
character.
wonderful.
Oh, I love her.
She's beautiful.
She is awesome. She's awesome.
She's freaking Zelda.
She is.
She behaves like Zelda.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't give a shit. She does what she wants. She says what she wants.
Yep.
And my God, is she beautiful.
Yeah, she is awesome. I told you that the most recent adaptation, the Jordan that they picked for that one, the one with Leo,
Yes.
that's how I always envisioned her.
Me too.
Not the one from the 70s, although the Jordan from the Redford film is really good.
She is, but what makes the Redford film is Redford.
Yeah.
He is Gatsby.
He is Gatsby.
Leo can do it all day long. It doesn't matter.
Robert Redford is Jay.
He's
fucking
Jay
Gatsby.
No one will ever come close.
No.
I mean, there's no point in making another one.
Yeah.
I didn't like the music in the new one.
I didn't either.
I thought
Tobey Maguire was a decent Nick.
he actually. I think everyone, including DiCaprio, did a great job.
Yeah.
It's just the problem with DiCaprio is He was standing in the shadow of Robert Redford.
Robert frickin' Redford.
He's the best
Well,
Gatsby.
and Mia Farrow was Daisy, right?
Yes, and she was fantastic.
She was fantastic too. God. Yeah, they both were just absolutely phenomenal.
But no, Jordan.
But the Jordan in the newest movie, that's how I was pictured her when I read that book.
She's wonderful. I don't know who played her,
I don't know.
but she was wonderful.
She's amazing. Anyway, but Daisy. We could have a whole podcast on Jordan.
You could.
Just the way she is at the parties.
Oh.
She's bouncing all over the place, man.
She just doesn't care.
She doesn't care.
I honestly think he had Zelda in mind when he wrote her.
He may have.
I have no proof of that.
Yeah.
But if you look at how they behave. Anyway, we've wandered.
We have. Well, okay. Well, we'll say this and then we'll come back to Daisy. I think both of them, Daisy and Jordan, are different traits of Zelda. The way he feels about Zelda is how Gatsby worships her.
Yes.
Right? Worships Daisy. And then Jordan is the carefree spirit of Zelda.
Yeah.
I would make that argument.
I would agree with that.
He split Zelda in two with those two.
Yes.
Here's the problem with Daisy. Of all the characters, even though you're constantly being manipulated by Nick, there's this wonderful other manipulation happening within the narrative from Daisy as she is playing the entire crowd the whole time. Mm-hmm. And you get one glimpse into the real Daisy Buchanan at the beginning. When Nick meets her, he goes up to their house right after he talks about how succulent Tom looks. It was a cruel body. ... Oh my God! ... Dots everywhere. So.
Wow.
No, that was with the painter, remember?
Yeah.
Or the photographer. The drunk photographer who left his wife at the party and went with Nick. Odd. And he's in his bed, in his skivvies, and Nick is standing beside him. Huh. And then he wakes up in the station. Oh.
Interesting.
Interessante, Nicholas.
Something happened in the dots.
So anyway, that fourth dot, man, it'll get you. So anyway, so we get this one glimpse of the actual Daisy Buchanan when Nick first comes to her and she's talking about the birth of her baby. And for one brief moment in the entire book, she breaks character. Because we think of her as this flighty person who's just kind of existing.
Yeah.
And just kind of absorbing different things, refusing to deal with the negatives.
Yep.
Only deal with the positives. That's how she makes it through. Because Tom has made her that way, right? And that's the thing that that does come through in the narrative is that Tom has conditioned her to focus only on the positives, because if she starts to focus on the negatives, she realizes that her marriage is a sham, right? So, I need to put this here. There we go. Now my book won't fly away. Probably put Macbeth under here. So anyway, but we get this moment where she does break that character, and she talks about the daughter. And she says, and I'm quoting, probably paraphrasing, I should have brought Gatsby with me. That would have been just too much.
A bridge too far.
A bridge too far.
A bridge to nowhere.
A bridge to nowhere. A tunnel to nowhere. So
Folly.
Folly. But then, it's not even impressive. It's not an impressive tunnel.
It's not.
It's so bad.
It's a sad little tunnel.
You can't even do heroin in that thing.
Which is the whole point. But they have no idea what we're talking about. It's not in the book.
It's not in the book.
There's no tunnel or heroin in the book.
In Gatsby? What?
There's no tunnel.
Oh, there's probably heroin. Gatsby's parties were pretty fucking phenomenal.
Maybe opium of some kind, yeah.
So anyway, so Daisy says, and I'm paraphrasing, I looked at her and I hoped she would become stupid. And that's where she breaks character. Because she tells you she knows exactly what's going on. She's not this dumb, flighty blonde that everybody thinks she is. She's very aware of her surroundings. The other moment where she breaks character I said it was the only moment, but then I just remembered this. There's 2 places where she breaks character. The other moment where she breaks character is where he's throwing those silk shirts at her, right? He's walking around that fucking gallery and he's just throwing shirts at her. And she's crying. And they're so beautiful, right? And of course you get the wrong impersonation. The wrong impression.
Woo!
I need to be dust charged. So
Yeah, you do.
So anyway.
Canned air, baby.
Yeah. Somebody ought to fear me. So, silk shirts. So he's throwing them down there, and she starts bawling, and she's just holding it, and she's crying and everything. And he says,
Who's he in this case?
Gatsby. Remember, like, he brings her to the mansion, and Nick is there, and he's watching all this, right? And he's throwing all the shirts at her. And she's crying, and of course what you're supposed to think, what Fitzgerald wants you to immediately assume is that she's so shallow that all this wonderful silk stuff makes her happy, all his riches, all his money, right? And that's what Gatsby wants her to think. But the reality is she's crying because she realizes she's lost him. He's not that soldier boy that she fell in love with. She's lost Jay Gatsby.
Yes.
Or, as she knows him, James Gatz.
That's right.
Right? He's gone.
You have no idea that they have a past.
Yeah.
You really don't. I mean, that's one of the greatest things about that book is you don't find out until much later, oh my God, this is not a burgeoning romance.
Right. This is a continuation.
Yes. They had a hiatus.
This is Calixta and Alcee in the storm.
That's right.
They have that past.
They do.
So when the storm happens, it's what I told my students last week, they're finishing what they started in the Canadian Ball.
And the storm gives them permission to do it.
Mm-hmm. But that moment she breaks character because you see her, if you really understand their past, you see that she has lost him. That's when she realizes he never realizes he's lost her. He's so blinded by his obsession. He doesn't realize he's lost her. She realizes at that moment she's lost him.
What a beautiful character.
At the end, everything is said and done. The murder of Myrtle.
The Myrtle.
The Myrtle.
Myrtle Martyr.
The Myrtle murder. She cuts herself off from him because that's what she's been trained to do. You don't look at the negative, you only look at the positive. And she doesn't show up for the rest of the book. The last time you see her is she gets in the car, and that's it. Everything else is related to you.
Yep.
You never see her again. Fitzgerald yanks her out of the book.
Which is fantastic.
It is. Because you don't get to see how she actually reacts, but you get the impression just from how everything lays out in the end that she's shutting off the negative and only focusing on the positive.
And he's alone.
And that's why Gatsby, yes, at the end, brings the phone out. The chauffeur doesn't hear the gunshots. Hey man, how you doing? Doing all right?
What's up?
Good to see you too, man.
Yeah,
it is. Feels great.
You gonna get your table?
No, I got to go today.
Yeah.
We'll see you, man. Oh.
See you, man.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. So that's why he's got the phone out there. He's expecting her to call, and she never calls.
It would be hard to imagine a flightier female character
Yeah.
than her.
But she's not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And those 2 moments in the book where she breaks, and you see the real Daisy.
Yeah. Otherwise she looks flighty.
Yeah. But those 2 moments also indicate, like I said, there's this secret manipulation happening to everyone else by her
Yep.
throughout the book. She's amazing. But she fails. she ultimately fails because she crawls right back into that facade. Which brings us to,
Your favorite character.
oh God. Well, Quentin is my favorite character, but
Hester's the greatest female character ever written.
ever written.
Ever.
Ever written.
Ever.
There is no, in fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday, I said, name somebody who's more badass. And they couldn't do it.
Because you can't.
No.
She is the ultimate fuck you patriarchy kind of character. She tells them all to go to hell without
Yes, she
telling
does.
them to go to hell.
I know. Isn't it beautiful?
Did you bring it?
I did.
Excellent.
Of course I've
Why
got
didn't you bring
it.
Gatsby?
I know. I didn't think about that. I thought, I know Gatsby enough. I
Which
should've.
you do,
Yeah.
but
I
you
should've.
wanted to quote
I
things.
know this book forwards and backwards too.
Well, you've only taught it how many times now?
I know. Yeah, but how many times I read it before I taught it?
Yeah.
One day, okay, so what I want to do, one day we just need to do an entire podcast. Do an entire podcast on Gatsby. Do an entire podcast on the Scarlet Letter.
Yes.
Do an entire podcast on the Wasteland. Do an entire
Now you're talking.
Yeah. Do an entire podcast on the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Haha.
Because that story.
Okay, so yeah, let's not get started because I have my ideas about that story.
Yeah.
And I know I'm right, at least to some extent, because I've gathered the evidence.
Yeah.
Right? So
By the way, preview for next week, if you made it this far into the podcast, we're going to be talking about Shakespeare next week. And no, we're not going to be getting into the conspiracy theories or anything like that. We're going to talk about the art. We're going to talk about the stories because
the texts themselves,
the texts themselves
not
are
the life of the writer.
Yeah. The texts themselves are the greatest stories ever written.
Because the argument is a bit tired, so
Yeah.
focusing on the plays is probably best, and the sonnets.
Yeah.
Sonnet 130.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
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 I can never remember the number.
I think you probably should read that one on the podcast.
Yeah.
Or I'll read it, one or the other.
One of us will do it. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Bard. Try not to spend the entire time talking about Hamlet.
It's going to be very hard to
That's going to be hard. That and the Tempest. Because I could
Tempest.
go off on the Tempest for hours.
Throwing the book into the water. Oh. Some of the most poetic moments in
Oh
all
my
of drama.
God. Yeah.
Anyway, Daisy.
That and the
Sorry,
chorus.
Hester. We're on
Yeah.
Hester.
That and the chorus at the beginning of Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Oh.
That's a resume. All right. Stretching forth the official staff in his left hand, he laid his right upon the shoulder of a young woman, whom he thus drew forward until on the threshold of the prison door, she repelled him by an action marked with natural dignity and force of character and stepped into the open air. The first thing we see her do is an act of defiance. Mic drop. Done. The book could have ended there.
How far in is it?
We're on page 43, but we're in the second page of the second chapter because the first chapter is just basically him setting the setting for what's coming in the marketplace, which is chapter 2. I won't go into the genius of the custom house because that could be a podcast by itself. That's why we ought to do an entire podcast just on the book.
The custom house is all politics.
It is.
He gets to air his grievances in that
Well,
chapter.
it's all politics, but it's also setup.
It is.
Right? Because after he loses his job, he goes back to Boston, he leaves Salem, and he talks about how she torments his brain.
Yep.
He can't get her out of his brain. And so at the end of the custom house, and I point this out to my students, I'm doing it anyway. At the end of the custom house, he hasn't written the book yet.
Nope.
And he sits down to write it, and when you get to the first page of chapter 1, you're reading it as he's writing it.
Yep.
And it's the most overlooked switch in the history of literature.
He's
because,
discovering it with you.
yes,
He's just as surprised as you are.
he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Because he's reading these papers, right? He's
Yeah.
found these documents.
Yeah.
And it's been years since I've read it, but
That's all that he finds. And so he's putting the narrative together in his head. And now he's putting it out on paper, and he doesn't know how it's going to end.
nope.
Even though he's a third-person omniscient narrator, he doesn't know how the story's going to end. That is mind-blowing. No wonder he got so angry when nobody bought this book.
He really, well, I think he kind of knew that it was
See you,
never.
dude.
I think he knew it was never going to work out.
Yeah.
Because it was too. It's like, and I always find a way to bring this cat up. It's like Melville and Moby Dick. He
Yeah.
had to have known
This is not going to fly.
this is too far.
Yeah.
No one's going to read this.
Well, the
and
Europeans read the crap out of it.
They did. How long did it take before people finally realized The Scarlet Letter is one of the greatest books ever written?
Well, that's like the 1890s, 1900s?
Yeah.
The Academy discovered him first.
Yep.
Okay, let's back up. The Academy rediscovered him
Yep.
first. And then it was in the 20s when they rediscovered Melville.
Yeah, it took a while before Melville came back.
Emerson had always been there.
Yep. Had Melville only written that one book,
Yeah.
it would be enough.
Yeah.
So Hester,
Yeah.
let's come back
All right.
because she's your fave.
What a woman. So the first thing we see is an act of defiance. She bore in her arms a child, a baby of some 3 months old, who winked and turned aside its little face from too vivid light of day, because its existence heretofore had brought it acquainted only with the gray twilight of a dungeon or other darksome apartment of the prison. I point out to my students, he's setting the scene for how dirty and grimy the conditions were that this woman was in. Now, what I tell my students is you have to understand she's been in this prison at least, that we know of, a minimum 9 months, because around 3 months she's starting to show. And they figure it out. So they arrest her. So that's 6 months of pregnancy. And then 3 months of the child's life. It's 9 months.
Yep.
She's been in that prison. Which makes this next scene even more amazing.
Because, according to the book, she looks terrible when she comes out.
Yes, she's supposed to.
She looks awful.
Well, she's supposed to look awful.
Yeah, read it.
When the young woman, the mother of this child, stood fully revealed before the crowd, it seemed to be her first impulse to clasp the infant closely to her bosom, not so much by an impulse of motherly affection as that she might thereby conceal a certain token which was wrought or fastened into her dress. So she pulls Pearl to hide the A immediately. In a moment, however, wisely judging that one token of her shame would but poorly serve to hide another, she took the baby on her arm, and with a burning blush and yet a haughty smile, and a glance that would not be abashed, looked around at her townspeople and neighbors. I always think of her just like doing this and throwing it out there like, look at it, bitches.
Yep. Accurate.
But the coolest thing is she scans the crowd. She grins and just looks at all of them like, look. Oh! On the breast of her gown in fine red cloth, surrounded with an elaborate embroidery and fantastic flourishes of gold thread, appeared the letter A. It was so artistically done and with so much fertility and gorgeous luxuriance of fancy that it had all the effect of a last and fitting decoration to the apparel which she wore, and which was of a splendor in accordance with the taste of the age, but greatly beyond that what was allowed by the sumptuary regulations of the colony. So she's in a hot dress with this fucking name. Now, you said something very interesting in the car, and I want you to bring it back up about how this is the red herring.
Okay. So when we were all in high school and had this book inflicted upon us by a well-meaning English teacher,
Some young college undergrad.
they always bring up the A, and they
Yep.
spend forever on this A. And what does the A mean? And it has some deeper meaning. And it has to mean something. Until you read the Blithedale Romance. And I think the Blithedale Romance is actually a really good way to think about the Scarlet Letter. Did he write it after the
He
Scarlet
wrote
Letter?
it after Scarlet Letter.
I think he might have been referring to the Scarlet Letter. But in it, there's this object. I can't remember what it was. You might know. But he actually stops the narrative and says, "Reader."
It's her apron.
Okay, good. There you go. "Reader, this is a symbol." As if to make fun of the reader for trying to find something that
That's
isn't
not
there.
there.
So does the A stand for adultery?
Yes.
Yeah. Can we move on now, please?
Yeah. That's it.
I mean, it could have been, now what she does with it is what's important. What it stands for
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. What she does with that letter and the fact that she makes it so prominent and is almost proud of it,
Yes.
that's what's cool.
Yes, because what I didn't read is, on the opposite page of that, you have the 5 women
Yes.
that are talking about it, and one of them says they ought to burn the A in her forehead. One of them says, what does it matter what they make her wear? It could be so small that she can cover it with a brooch and nobody ever see it. So this thing, and he's setting you up
Yep.
to focus on how big it is. The reality of the A isn't what it stands for, as you noted, and you lose the semblance of the A later when she talks about Pearl.
Yep.
Because when she stands in front of the governor, she said, and we're actually going to go to that passage here in a second. She stands before the governor and she says, Pearl is the scarlet letter.
Yes.
I don't even need this on me. She's it.
Pearl's the symbol.
And then Pearl does this really weird thing in the woods later when she and Dimsdale have that little private meeting or coming together, and Pearl's off playing in the woods. Right before that, Pearl wants to make a green A and put it on her dress. Right? So even the meaning, but then when they're in the woods, Hester takes the A off and Pearl loses her shit until she puts it back on. I think maybe that's why when she comes back, she puts it back on.
Yeah.
It's that reality, she's never going to get away from it. And it's one scarlet letter telling her that you can't get rid of the other scarlet letter. They're both brands, right? So I think but that's not what they talk about.
No,
They focus too much on it
they do.
and not what she's doing with it.
Yeah, they forget about why the A is actually there. It is a mark of shame,
It is.
but it's something she refuses to be ashamed of
Yep.
or about. And that's the power.
Yep.
The power is not in the letter, the power is in her.
Yes.
Because when you make it all about the A, you take away the power that is Hester Prynne.
Well, he also sets this up in the custom house when he discovers it, when he finds it. And he talks about going to seamstresses and they can't figure out how she did it. They can't reverse engineer it.
Which is impressive.
It is. So she really went above and beyond, right? What he's doing is he's not setting you up to understand how good a seamstress she was. What he's doing is saying she went all out. You're going to make me wear the A, fine. But I'm going to do it my way. This is my mark. And I'm going to own it, right? I'm not going to do the physical description.
Can you tell me why you're not going to do the physical description?
Because
Do you have a reason?
I go nuts every time I do.
I think you absolutely have to, because I think it's integral.
Integral.
Yes.
The young woman was tall, with a figure of perfect elegance on a large scale. She had hips.
Yes. Yeah.
She had curves. I love him. He's so good at this. She had dark and abundant hair, so glossy that it threw off the sunshine with a gleam. This is why that piece about Pearl is so important, because you start doing the numbers and you're like, how the hell did she keep her hair clean? Because she's naturally just gorgeous.
Yep.
It's just nature, right? And a face which, besides being beautiful from regulatory of feature and richness of complexion, she had great skin.
Porcelain goddess.
Had the impressiveness belonging to a marked brow and deep black eyes.
The fact that he goes into that much detail
Yeah.
is kind of important.
Oh, it's not. We're not even done.
Keep going.
She was ladylike, too, after the manner of the feminine gentility of those days, characterized by a certain state and dignity rather than by the delicate, evanescent, and indescribable grace. In other words, she's aristocratic. She carries herself as an aristocrat, but she's strong. It's like she has the power, and she knows she has the power. She's not this dainty little princess, right? And that's what he's distinguishing here. She's not fragile. Which is now recognized as an indication. And never had Hester Prynne appeared more ladylike in the antique interpretation of the term than as she issued from the prison. Whew. Wow! Those who had before... This is why I don't like the Demi Moore version. There's no way she would have worn a fucking cap on her head.
No, she's going to show off her hair.
Oh, yeah.
And this, for the time,
Yeah.
is slutty.
Yes. Very naughty.
Very naughty.
She's owning it.
Yes, she is. Yeah, understand, I'm not saying she's a slut.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm saying they would have regarded that
Yeah.
as
Well, they've
being
already
slutty.
condemned her as an adulteress.
Yes.
So they've already made up their mind. So she's just saying, fine.
Yeah, Demi Moore never should have put on that cap.
No.
Ever.
God, that was so stupid. Those who had... I need to do a movie adaptation of the Scarlet. I need to blow everybody away.
You can be Hester. It'll be great.
No. I think I'd be a good Chillingsworth.
I don't know, Dimsdale?
No. No, I'm not skinny enough to be Dimsdale. You gotta be like, almost dead to be Dimsdale.
Christopher Walken
Christopher Walken.
is
Hester.
Dimsdale.
I love you.
The Continental.
Yeah, the Continental.
Anyway,
You cannot prove that is mine. I'm doing William Shatner. For some
it's
reason.
really easy to do when you're trying to do Christopher Walken.
No, it's insane. Oh my God! All right.
You never see them in the same room together. You ever notice that?
Interessante.
Keep going.
Those who had before known her and had expected to behold her dimmed and obscured by a disastrous cloud were astonished, even startled, to perceive how her beauty shone out and made a halo of the misfortune and ignominy in which she was enveloped. She was glowing.
She had an aura.
She was glowing.
And you were going to skip this bit.
I know.
You can't. I mean, it matters.
It matters so much because she's glowing.
She's wonderful.
The first thing you see her do is say, "Fuck you, get your hand off me." Mm-hmm. And then she does that natural inclination to pull the kid to cover the A, and then she says, "Nope, I'm not going to let them win." That's what that moment is I'm not going to let them win. And so she brings the kid down and then shows it. And then this is the beauty of it. She grins and scans the crowd.
Oh my God.
God. All right, we're going to skip to...
I could listen to that description of her all day.
I know, right? Jesus. Oh, I like this. I will say this. It may be true that to a sensitive observer, there was something exquisitely painful in it. Her attire, which indeed she had wrought for the occasion in prison and had modeled much after her own fancy, seemed to express the attitude of her spirit, the desperate recklessness of her mood by its wild and picturesque peculiarity. Recklessness. Okay.
It never gets old.
Now, we're skipping a little bit. They brought her up on the platform. And this thing you got to remember, okay? You got to set the scene. There's a platform. In front of the platform is a balcony. Right? No. I'm getting this wrong. The platform, and then behind the platform, there's a balcony, and that's where all the the statesmen are, the church leaders and all that stuff, right? And they're looking down on her. In front of the platform are the townsfolk. And then across from it is the prison, right? So, and they're all, everybody's standing there. And she's got her back to the crowd, facing the balcony where the clergy is. And Reverend Wilson first tries to get her to confess, and she won't do it. So he says, okay, well, I have taken the pains to talk to your minister, Master Dimsdale. And so he encourages Dimsdale to go up there and get her to confess. So he steps out. He says, Hester Prynne, leaning over the balcony and looking down steadfastly into her eyes. So he's locked eyes with her. Now here's what this good man says, and seest the accountability on which I labor. If thou feelest it to be for thy soul's peace, and that thy earthly punishment will thereby be made more effectual to salvation, I charge thee to speak out the name of thy fellow sinner and fellow sufferer. So he tells her, speak, tell us who. Be not silent for any mistaken pity and tenderness for him. So don't worry about him. Don't carry any guilt for him. Speak. Believe me, Hester, though he were to step down from a high place and stand there beside thee on the pedestal of shame, yet better were it so than to hide a guilty heart through life. So he tells her, if you speak my name, and of course we don't realize this because we don't realize Dimsdale is the dad.
Not yet. No.
Right? We find out. But this moment, he's talking directly to her and say, speak my name and I will come and stand with you. Don't fear. Hester shook her head. Woman! It's so good. Woman, transgress not beyond the limits of heaven's mercy, cried the Reverend Mr. Wilson more harshly than before. That little babe hath been gifted with a voice to second and confirm the counsel which thou hast heard. Speak out the name, that and thy repentance may avail to take the scarlet letter off thy breast. So they're dangling this idea, if you speak the name, we'll take the letter off.
That wouldn't matter anyway, though.
Her response, never. It is too deeply branded. You cannot take it off. And of course, she's referring to Pearl here. And would that I might endure his agony as well as mine. Now, she said, I didn't mention this, she says all this looking into the deep and troubled eyes of the younger clergyman. She's looking at Dimsdale. And she's telling him, fuck you. I'm not going to confess your sin. This is why. Because no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be your scapegoat. And the way I set up for my students, is what she's doing is she is claiming her right to be an individual. Not a woman, an individual. And she refuses to be the scapegoat for him, because if she confesses for him, it's hearsay. If he confesses himself, it's not.
Right.
And so she actually loses points by confessing his name. So she claims her right as an individual. She takes her sin. She takes her guilt. And she says, I would even carry his, but I'm not going to say his name. Because now, as you say, it'd be on her to prove it.
Yep.
How do you prove that? You have to wait for the kid to get older.
Yep.
That's just a stay of execution.
She's magnificent. She refuses to bow to what men want. She never acquiesces to a man.
No.
Ever.
So this is where they take her to the governor's mansion. They're trying to get Pearl away from her. So the old minister says, my poor woman, this is after they've told her, we're taking the kid. My poor woman said the not unkind old minister. What a great way to, oh yeah, he stuck it to him. The child shall be well cared for, far better than thou canst do it. Hester responds, God gave her into my keeping, repeated Hester Prynne, raising her voice almost to a shriek. I will not give her up. And here, by a sudden impulse, she turned to the young clergyman, Mr. Dimsdale, at whom, up to this moment, she had seemed hardly so much as once to direct her eyes. Speak thou for me, cried she. Thou wast my pastor and hast charge of my soul and knowest me better than these men can. Again, that double speak. They're hearing one thing and he's hearing something else. I will not lose the child. Speak for me, thou knowest, for thou hast sympathies which these men lack. Thou knowest what is in my heart, and what are a mother's rights, and how much the stronger they are when that mother has but her child and the scarlet letter. Look thou to it. I will not lose the child. Look to it. And then Dimsdale finally speaks, and he says, there is truth in what she says. Truth in what Hester says and in the feeling which inspires her. God gave her the child and gave her, too, an instinctive knowledge of its nature and requirements, both seemingly and so peculiar, which no other mortal being can possess. And moreover, is there not a quality of awful sacredness in the relation between this mother and this child? She turns to Dimsdale and says, do something. Because they're not listening to me.
You're the dad.
Yep. And she references that. She says, you have sympathies these guys can't have. She doesn't say don't have. She says can't have.
Yep.
Speak up, you little weasel.
Oh, you hate him so much.
I know. By the end, you're just like, what a punk.
Yeah, fucking bastard.
I mean, his guilt kills him. Literally kills him.
You know what? Good.
Yeah.
He had a chance.
Well, and again, what did I tell you? And I'm convinced of this. When he wrote that character, he's going after Emerson.
Oh yeah.
Because
Emerson is Dimsdale.
Yeah. Well, everything that Emerson believes is in Dimsdale.
Yes.
He lives by those essays.
He does well, but the problem with Emerson is the problem with Dimsdale is they're not horrible people, but they lack courage.
Yeah.
Which is why Emerson's so good at saying what you should do and then himself never doing it. Dimsdale's the same way. I think you're right. I think he's. This is his chance to roast Emerson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to roast an entire patriarchal culture. I mean, you cannot oversell that aspect of the book. This is an attack on a male-dominated society.
Absolutely.
It's an attack on marriage.
When he writes this, he's been through what's going to be put in the Blythedale Romance.
Yes.
He's been with Margaret Fuller.
Yes.
He knows Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Yes.
He knows Fanny Fern.
Yes.
He has heard all this.
Yes.
And he's churning it.
Yep. And he comes up with this. And this is extraordinary.
It is. And she is the only one that comes close is Lady Macbeth. And the only reason why she doesn't match her is because she fails.
Yeah. Yep. Hester doesn't fail.
No.
Hester has convictions, and she stands by them.
All the way to the end.
Yep. Absolutely unashamed of what she's done.
Comes back after leaving. When he dies, she leaves. She comes back years later and puts the A back on. And she wears it till her dying day. And she stays there. He actually says to finish her penance. That's what he says. And this is where he dies. Good for you, Dimsdale, you piece of shit.
He's a dick.
He's a prick. Hester Prynne had returned and taken up her long forsaken shame. There was a more real life for Hester Prynne here in New England than in that unknown region where Pearl had found a home. Here had been her sin, here her sorrow, and here was yet to be her penance. She had returned, therefore, and resumed of her own free will, for not the sternest magistrate of that iron period would have imposed it, resumed the symbol of which we have related so dark a tale. Never afterwards did it quit her bosom. Her own free will. Still doesn't fail at the end.
She never does.
Wow.
Daisy fails.
Yep.
Lady Macbeth fails.
Yep. Daisy Miller fails.
Daisy Miller fails. Not Hester.
Not Hester.
Moll Flanders fails.
Moll Flanders. Oh, big over and over and over.
But not Hester. She's a special character.
She is. And understand, we're talking about women who are written by men.
Yeah.
That is the key to this whole conversation. These are all women written by men. Because if you look at Ruth Hall, Ruth doesn't fail. If you look at, what is the main character of The Awakening? I can never remember her name.
I can't remember her name either.
It's not Kate, because that's who writes it is Kate. But it's something.
I really don't remember.
She doesn't fail.
No.
Neither did Desiree.
No, and she goes out on her own terms.
Mm-hmm. Both of them do.
Yep.
And that's the victory.
Look at Calixta.
Yeah. Oh.
No respecter of marriage.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? She's, in each instance, when we look at Kate Chopin, in every instance of her female characters, they shed society.
Yes.
And The Awakening, she strips naked before she gets in the water. With Desiree, as she's walking through the field, it's tearing her dress apart. It's that metaphoric moment where she's letting go and nature is consuming her.
Yep.
Right? And then with Calixta, yeah, she throws everything out. And the interesting thing, the last line of The Storm is, and everyone was happy.
I think that Hawthorne does a better job than any male writer at capturing
It's the best job.
a courageous woman.
I don't know of any female character written by a man that's better than Hester. Not even Brett.
Well, Brett is powerful because she has all the characteristics of a man, because that's the only way Hemingway could write a woman, is by making her into a man or making her weak.
Yeah.
He didn't have, he could not possibly have created a truly strong female figure. It wasn't in him.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Vonnegut, his female characters are all, his major female characters are all just stupefied by the men. They don't understand the men.
The men are stupid.
Yeah. Well, look at the male characters. They're dumb, except for Elliot.
Yep. No, I can't think of a better female character written by a man. I'm qualifying it, but
Yeah.
I mean, but you know what? I shouldn't qualify it. I can't think of a better female character, period, written by anybody.
Yeah.
There is no one, man or woman,
Yeah.
who's come close to creating a female character that's that good.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And we only hit a couple of the spots.
We get the big ones, though. You got the big ones. You got to do your bit
Yeah.
about her walking out of prison.
That's the best opening ever. That's how you bring a main character, the protagonist, in. God. Because you set it up from the beginning. Hey, this character is getting ready to kick ass and take names. She's amazing. And she does it in such a quiet, very dignified way.
I don't know what scholar brought this book into the light, but they deserve a medal.
Yeah.
A posthumous medal.
Yeah.
It's the best thing he ever wrote.
It is. I mean, The House of Seven Gables is a phenomenal book, but it's not.
And Blind Tail
Scarlet
Romance
Letter.
is great.
It's great. Marble Font. Well, Marble Font is decent. It's not his best writing, but that was at the end.
But this book,
Yeah.
it's like Melville with Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Had he only written that one book.
It's a.
No, they both
Yeah, but
went
we
on.
kind of need the Blind Tail Romance, man, because it's so good.
Oh, it is a complete. Oh my God! It slaps the transcendentalists in the face.
It does.
Like, this is stupid.
This is so
Do
dumb.
you know how stupid you are? I don't think you do. Let me write a book to show you how stupid you are. Because he didn't rake Emerson over the coals enough.
I know.
And Maggie.
And yeah, poor Maggie. Well, I'm telling you, man, she just pissed him off so bad.
And he was in love with her for a while,
He
right?
was. He wanted that Maggie so bad. But I think she was too much for him. Here's the thing about, okay, I don't want you to think that we're bashing on Margaret Fuller.
No.
But I think what it was she was too far left for him.
Yes.
And I think he realized that when he went up there.
Yeah.
That's why he ends up with, oh God, I can't remember his wife's name, but he ends up, the way he describes his wife is just beautiful.
Oh, his own wife, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
The one he meets afterwards. And he describes her as like this wonderful creature.
He doted on her.
He did.
Referred to her as his dove.
His dove. Called her his dove. He
And-
loved her so much. And that marriage lasted till he died. And he loved her the whole time. Even if Melville kind of... We won't go into that. Because that is just some weird shit, man. Those letters are so creepy.
Woo! What kind of relationship did they have?
Well, here's the thing, right? You gotta ask, because I can't remember if there are any responses from good old Nate. What we've got are the letters from Melville, from old Hermie. And those letters are, they get racy.
He loved him.
He did.
I don't know if he loved him.
Well, again, some of those letters get weird, dude. They get racy quick.
I mean, to be fair, men were more affectionate in their
They
letters
were.
with one another.
Yeah, back then.
But I think his letters still qualify as being.
They're weird, dude. That's some weird shit, man.
Was Melville ever married? I don't know.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
Well, if he had feelings for
he was a closet.
Hawthorne,
I think he was in the closet.
he may have been.
And unlike Walt, he didn't come out. But those letters, man. Oh.
I wonder how Hawthorne would have responded to them. Because he cared deeply.
Like I said, I can't remember if we have Hawthorne's responses or not. I know we got Melville's letters to him.
Well, they were best friends. I
Yeah.
mean, they were
Well,
tight.
he was a protege. When he met Hawthorne, he was working for the resort that Tickner and Fields took Hawthorne to. And that's how they met. And by that point, Melville was a huge fan. So it was a fanboy thing, and then it turned into a protege because he showed Hawthorne some of his work. And then later, when he's writing A Well of a Tale, we have manuscripts of Hawthorne's notes to Melville about the manuscript. He edited it for him. He gave him pointers. Hawthorne had a hand in that book.
Doesn't surprise me.
So, but they didn't fall away, but they kind of drifted.
They grew apart.
Yeah, in Hawthorne's later years. But I think that had more to do with Hawthorne's health,
Probably.
you know? So,
Well, that was fun. I'm glad we talked about those three.
Yeah. Next week we'll do Shakespeare. You'll have more input. I was told the other day it's good to hear him talk.
What, me?
Yeah, because last week you got to talk more.
Well, last week I couldn't shut up. I had very strong. This thing about the stuff I know well is I have very strong opinions.
Yeah.
That sometimes border on the absolute.
Right. Well,
Narrative poetry is dead.
I know, right?
It's never coming back. Which, in reflection, I admit to being a bit extreme in my response.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there when I did the screening to make sure it was working all right. I'm sitting there like, he just won't let it go.
Well, to be fair and kind of clarify what I was saying, I think it's going to be hard just because the novel has done things that narrative poetry never could have dreamed of.
Yeah. That I understand. But I wouldn't venture to say it won't be done.
Well, okay, if it is done, it's going to have to be fragmented.
Yeah.
Or it's going to have to be conventional narrative from beginning to end. But I think you're just going backward if you do that. And in order to make it fragmented, you're basically following the wasteland.
Yeah.
So as to can it go somewhere new, I don't have an answer to that.
Right.
Except I think it's going to be hard for the narrative poem to go anywhere new.
Right.
So that's what I really meant to say. I mean, I was feeling very extreme about it, but I think it's going to be really hard for...
Or there were circumstances that happened as we were doing this
that set me off.
It made you very angry.
And it came out in my conversation.
It came out.
Narrative poetry's dead.
No, Brian, it's dead.
And I don't lament that fact.
Right.
I don't think poetry's dead at all. I think it's going to be hard to get past the wasteland with narrative. I think it's going to be really hard to get past the wasteland.
Again, and this is my argument. Now, it's always been my argument. And at first, you wanted to argue with me, but over the years, you've kind of come over to my side. The reason why it's going to be hard to get past it is because they took poetry, period, as far as you can take it.
Yeah.
And now what we're doing is we're playing in the sandbox that they defined.
Yeah, and I think there's a poem out there that's going to go further than The Wasteland. I don't know if
it's been written yet.
Well, or it's been written and it was never published, and one day we'll find it.
Right.
Because I think there's room, and I think if you look at, I don't know, now we're going back a podcast, but
well, it's okay.
If you look at what's been the work that's been done since 1922, some really impressive strides have been made in poetry.
Yeah.
But The Wasteland's there's something about it. There's something about it. I mean, I don't know if it's the greatest poem ever written, but it certainly blows everything up.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Just because it takes it as far as it can go doesn't mean it's the greatest.
No.
It did something that other poems didn't do.
Though it might be the greatest poem ever written in the English language.
Your argument about Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, that they probably looked at that and said, "That's as far as you can go."
And for a long time,
Yeah.
it was, because the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is a deconstructionist's wet dream. Because
Yeah.
what it does is it unravels itself at the end.
Mm-hmm.
When this mariner gives you this moral to the story that makes absolutely no fucking sense. And Coleridge was doing that shit on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
For its time, it is avant-garde as hell. The marginal notes, all this other shit he folds in. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
His audience wasn't ready for that shit. Eliot's audience wasn't ready for that shit. For all we know, someone's already done it, and we just aren't ready for it.
Probably. All right. Just as he's getting wound up, I'm going to shut him down.
That's all right. Because we went back.
Yes, it's okay.
You can't go back.
All right, so next week it's Shakespeare. We're going to look at the Bard and all the wonderful, well, not all the, there's no way we cover all
Everything.
the blades. Yeah, the entire catalog. But we're going to talk about them. We're going to hit the highlights. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, ring the bell for notifications. I'm the barber.
Ding ding.
That's Dr. J. Peace. Ding ding.
So.
Now it's time for Dr. J.